Hi guys, welcome back to Virtual Oasis, and if I'm looking a mess, it's because I just got off work. My usual disclaimer. And this week on Virtual Oasis is an exciting week because it is Halloween week. So everything spooky, everything creepy, everything costumey, and everything dramatic is reserved for this week for you guys. And I was thinking, what could I make that possibly the other members wouldn't? Because we don't always discuss what we're specifically going to do, sometimes we do. And this week, I wanted to talk about conspiracy theories. And if you don't know, I'm a very logical, reasonable, rational person, and I don't believe in most conspiracy theories. However, there are some that are very eerily scary if they are true, and I believe they have the potential to be true. They're not one of the things that are too far out there and obnoxious, like the Illuminati or stuff like that. But if you choose to believe those, I don't think it makes you any less gullible. There's tons of things that we do every day that don't make us gullible, and we still knowingly do those things. So with that being said, it's not to bash anybody's beliefs or whatever. These are just the ones I find more interesting because there is some realm of possibility in my mind for them to be true or not true. So with that being said, I'm going to share some of my top favorite reasonable conspiracy theories with you guys. So if you're into that, stay tuned. If not, find another video. Conspiracy number one, it is 9/11, and as tragic and horrible as that day is, I think it leaves a lot of questions in Americans' minds. Even up till this day, the story behind it is my cat just like bum rushed me. So conspiracy theory number one is 9/11, and it was a horrific and tragic day for American history, and there's no really disputing that. However, there is the narrative that the American government knew well beforehand and knew during the attack and had the means to prevent it both before and during, and chose not to because they wanted to politically and emotionally manipulate the American people. And I don't think this is like any type of unique conspiracy. I think that this has been a conspiracy during any type of major event in any history of any government. However, the thought that this is a possible thing, and it's probably readily done in various parts of the world, if not America, I can't say because I'm not part of the government. And I'm sure it is, but not to the scale of full war and where people's lives are at stake, and we're not only our people's lives, but the countries that we are occupying and choosing to stabilize. I believe that it's such a scary thought, more so than any horror movie of any supernatural kind, because it is something that is so easy to do, I guess, and that's what's scary to me. Our government could be feeding us lies about any major event, and we wouldn't know because we don't really have a first instinctual habit of questioning if the news is true or not, and I think that is what's scary to me. Because if Fox 4 decided to tell me that there was an attack on a building from a certain group of people, I would have no means to question that. And if they told me it was because of XYZ, then I would go on believing it was XYZ. Or at least past Tory would. Now, not so much. I tend to question things, and I tend to be a lot more critical of the government. And I think that is rightfully so. To me, this conspiracy theory is just very scary because I know it is probably a reality, if not to such a major extent, but in some parts of the world it may be, and to me that is super scary. Our government can manipulate how we feel. Another one is alien existence, and this has a very numerous amount of sorts. The one I want to talk about is in the 40s, when there is an unidentified object that was cited to fall down in Roswell, New Mexico. And the reason why I chose this one is because in the late 80s, I believe it's in 89, a former mortician, said that he conducted dissections of these aliens. And to me, I think it is highly possible for there to be other forms of life in the universe because it is such a vast, vast thing. And if we have life on this planet, what is to say there is not some form of life, even if it's just like plants or something? Alien existence is another conspiracy theory that I believe that our government could be hiding. Whether or not it's true, I don't know. I just feel like it is something that is extremely possible, but not necessarily in the movie way that we have come to believe. Scary about this is not necessarily that we would find a new life form that would be unfriendly, but the way that humans would be likely to interact. And I believe it is man's instinct and their first reaction to act to new life forms negatively. If we look in the past of how people have responded to different types of people when coming in contact, just it's human nature to have war and conflict with things that they do not understand. And to me, that is why I find that particular conspiracy frightening. So, the New World Order and the Illuminati have been a conspiracy for a very long time, and it's kind of hyped and kind of a meme sometimes. However, I think it is frightening in a way to think that a powerful group of people, maybe the 1% of wealthy, are in so much control of so much of the world. To me, that is particularly frightening, and it's not to say that they sold themselves to the devil or whatever, but there's definitely an elite group of wealthy people in the world who can control so much because they have that power and they have the properties and companies and the just ability to do whatever they want because they have so much. And they are in control of our government in some ways. If you think about it now, a lot of politicians are lobbied out to big corporations and they back up those corporations. And if you think about how much gets by, the tobacco company makes billions and billions and buckets out so much money to politicians to back up what they're doing despite their products literally killing people. And it's kind of the same for guns. I'm not to say that you do or don't have the right to own a gun, but if you are in America, you know that we have a problem with gun violence. And it seems that nothing is being done about the source of that problem, which is the influx of weapons on the street, whether illegally or legal, or even just the ability for people to not be easily accessible to weapons if you have a criminal history or if you have any type of mental disorder that may make you violent. And if you see that, I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent because I'm passionate. We have so much lobbying and so many people who believe that it's my right to own a gun because I want to protect myself. Well, if we don't have maniacs out in the streets with guns, there's no reason for you to protect yourself. And vigilantes, like vigilante justice, it's different if someone comes into your home, but blah blah blah, tangent. The point is there are so many companies who have bought out and basically run ads on a daily basis for their beliefs or their companies to make money despite it not being maybe the best choice. And to me, that way in the New World Order is scarily terrifying because it does happen nowadays. It just might not be like Illuminati, Rihanna sold herself to the devil type of situation. So there's MK Ultra, and I'm not sure if that's how they pronounce it. I think it was in the 50s. I was doing some reading, and it is apparently a mind control experiment done by the CIA, I believe. It was the American government. I'm not sure what form of branch or where it was actually under, but it was found out about and abandoned. That was the cover story, they said. And if you remember Jonestown, and I believe his name was Tim Jones, and Ghana, or it was some country in Africa where they built a town and many citizens went over there. And I guess it was supposed to be just a town with their beliefs. He was just like a spiritual leader. And it's a mystery because all of the people in that town committed suicide. And that is believed to be part of the mind control experiment done by the government. But I guess this is kind of two conspiracies in one, that the government has techniques to control your mind. And secondly, that this big group of people from America migrated to a town under a spiritual leader. I guess it could be called a cult, and they all committed suicide at the same time. And no one really knows really the details of what like totally for sure happened, but I think both situations are oddly scary. Like what could bring a group of people to commit suicide together, and what could the government be controlling nowadays with that if they had the techniques and if it's true. So that to me is another very scary one. Conspiracy theory I'm going to talk about today is fluoride. It was a belief that people added fluoride to water, and it was supposed it has some teeth benefits. However, it does have ill effects, and it was added to water at some point. However, it is said and believed that some scientists and still knowingly added it to water because it was going to benefit pharmaceutical companies for poor health. And I think this is something still readily, I guess, applicable to many situations and things that we're allowed to eat and do to our foods, medicines, water. And because pharmaceutical companies have that money and power, they are done because they're not to help us. They are I'm pretty sure they're probably multi-billion, multi-million dollar industry. And with that, it is scary, like I said, because we're giving so much power to these companies when readily they should be regulated heavily by the government, and under stricter laws and codes and ethics, of course. So that to me is frightening as hell. And with that being said, those are just a few of the conspiracy theories that I think are totally frightening and totally applicable and totally reasonable. So I don't want to keep you guys any longer, so thank you for listening to me watch. If you haven't, be sure to subscribe to the Virtual Oasis family if you haven't already. You'll get a video every day of the week with us, and we would love to have you here. So if you have any creepy conspiracy theories or things you find frightening, even if they're not really totally Halloween related, please leave them in the comments below, and I would love to know because I'm not really an avid conspiracy fan. However, some are I find far more interesting than others, and they are totally creepy, and yeah, it's just really scary to think of what the people around me are capable of doing. So with that being said, I hope you guys all have a wonderful Halloween, a wonderful October, and stay warm because it is definitely getting chilly.
Bye.